Salam sejahtera, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan, Selamat Malam and good evening everyone. To the honorable speakers, Ms. Rahayu Saraswati, the co-chair of Y20 2022, Mr. Lukman Hakim, the president of Club Belia Prihatin, Ms. Ranitya Nurlita, environmental and youth activist, founder of Waste Hub and advisor of RSF, and of course, our moderator for today, Carmen Young, ESG and Sustainable Urban Development expert. First and foremost, let me introduce myself. I am Reni, the co-founder of Regional Sustainable Future, or we call it RSF now. I'm very honored to open this session today on behalf of RSF. And of course, special thank you for all the partners that made this session possible, all the lead of IYD and Y20 22 committee. For some of you who might not familiar with what RSF is, let me introduce you a bit about the organization. RSF, or Regional Sustainable Future, is a spin-off of ASEAN Youth Leaders Association. It is an independent youth-led organization that facilitates the youth leaders across ASEAN in the work towards an achievement of SDGs since 2015. In 2022, ILA is now transformed into Regional Sustainable Future to involve more stakeholders beyond ASEAN and to address the global challenges throughout the world. RSF is initiated to be an independent social platform that facilitates the collaboration between youth, experts, NGOs, CSOs, companies, founders, funders, and other stakeholders to connect, execute, and create the most impactful project across the region. So as we all might have known, Y20 is the official of youth forum affiliated with G20. That's again, it's initiated to develop cooperation with the future generation and provides a platform for young people to have their voices heard on issues relevant to G20 agenda. With that in mind, RSF is collaborating with IYD as the organization that have the mandate from the government of Republic of Indonesia to execute Y20 2022. To craft this session about what Y20 Communique discussion series on sustainable and livable planet. Again, to all the participants, thank you so much for making it here to attend this session. To give a short introduction about what this session is all about. This session will revolve around, but not limited to, discussing about the points that already been adopted in Y20 Communique, especially on a sustainable and livable planet for everyone. And this session will also discuss more on how the youth can play a significant role in cultivating a new innovation and in making a sustainable and livable planet possible for everyone. And of course, how does youth can join hand in hand with Y20 official delegates to create and implement Y20 Communique across the world. And this session will be moderated or led by our mentor, Carmen Young. Carmen is an expert in ESG and sustainable urban development that is now dedicated her career in building a sustainable way forward for future of our people and the cities that we live in. She is also an experienced project management and sustainability professional in the urban property and development space. Her background is in cognitive science with design management and corporate sustainability portfolio, steering a systemic change through innovation in sustainability with youth communities in ASEAN. So without further ado, I'd love to pass the spotlight to our dear friend here, Carmen. Carmen, I think the time and spotlight is yours.
Thank you very much, Rennie. It's my honor to be your host and moderator this evening. Thank you to all of the participants that are in the virtual room this evening. Apologies for a slight delay, but the show goes on nonetheless. So a very warm welcome once again to our speakers, Ms. Saras, Mr. Lukman, and also Ms. Lita. So we will be casual since it is a youth panel, right? And feel free to address me by my name, Carmen. All right, so for some ground rules before we begin the session, First up, this is an interactive session that has been organized together with Y20 and RSF. So for this session, feel free to use the chat function to type your responses. And for questions directed to our panelists, feel free to also use the Q&A box, which is next to the chat box. So the admin and myself, we will address questions based on the inputs from the Q&A box. So that's the first point. And the next one is to always be respectful in using the chat. So I'm sure everyone can commit to that. And last but not least, if you ever do share information or post things on your social media, feel free to tag us, Y20 and also RSF, Regional Sustainable Future. To begin this session, I will start off with an icebreaker. So for me, as someone who loves movies, I have a series of movies that I would like all of you in the audience and also the panelists, of course, to try and find the similarities between these. I would say all of them are like blockbuster, popular movies. I'm sure in Indonesia and Malaysia and everywhere else, you have seen them being shown, or perhaps you've just heard of them, of course. Okay, and it's basically these three movies, all right? So the first one is Avatar. Avatar is the oldest one that came out years ago. I can see people nodding their heads. You remember the blue beings, right? So that's the first one, Avatar. And the second one is Aquaman. Aquaman, you know, that hot Australian guy in it, that one? Okay, yes. I can see Sarah's like laughing. And the third one is, of course, I would say like the most famous one is actually Avengers. All right, so Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. So, and very coincidentally, when I was crafting this question, I realized that all three of these movies start with the letter A. So that's an interesting point. Anyway, so the icebreaker question is this: what are the similarities between these three movies, besides having just like the first letter of the title being A? Oh, okay. So he is American, not Australian. Okay, that's yeah, correction. Good that you spot that. So what are the similarities between these three movies? Let's see. Anyone from the panel would like to answer? It's okay, I'll give you a huge clue. It's related to the topic that we have this evening, sustainable and livable planet. Okay, we have a very quick answer from Rennie. It says saving the planet. All right, but it's okay. Spoilers if you have not watched
superheroes.
Superheroes, yes, that's a good point. Yeah, spoiler alert, if you have not watched in Endgame, what happens is that they didn't really save the planet, right? And someone had to like flick their fingers and something happened, which is eerily very similar to what we are facing now in the climate crisis and the climate emergency. People are losing their lives, there's disasters that we all experience. So these, I would say, might be the answer. So this is also food for thought for all of us as we go through the next 45 minutes together, is that movies are not just movies, they are inspired from real life events, inspired by what we all go through. So be it Avatar or Aquaman or Avengers, these are all inspired by the climate crisis. All of the superheroes will not have jobs to do if there weren't problems to be solved, right? If there wasn't a climate crisis, Thor wouldn't have to flick his fingers and people wouldn't have to suffer. So that would be the context that we will have as we enter this discussion, all right? So the first question that I have for all our panelists is this: what is it like for you during the lockdowns? And what are some of the lessons that you have learned through the lockdowns? And also do share a little bit about who you are and what you do. So maybe I can begin with Sarah, if you'd like to start.
Sure. Hi. Okay. Hi, my name is Rahayu Saraswati, Sarah for short. And I'm the co-chair of the Y20 Indonesia 2022. But aside from that, that's just one of the many hats I wear. I'm also a politician. I'm one of the deputy chairman of a political party in my country. I'm also a chairperson of a youth organization. In terms of business-wise, I also run an integrated multi-tropic aquaculture company, but also part of a social media startup. In terms of activism, what actually got me into politics is actually the fight against human trafficking since 2009. And so I have my own foundation that focuses on the fight against human trafficking since 2012. What did I learn? Well, aside from all of that, I'm also a wife and a mother to 3 children. During the pandemic, it was definitely a breath of fresh air because all of a sudden, Jakarta, that's usually filled with traffic and a lot of smog, became really clean air. And it was a chance to actually, rather than being frustrated, it was a chance to turn the negative energy into positive energy. And so finally, after not being able to lose weight after my second pregnancy, I actually started running, which I have taken on until now. And that's helped to actually, one, basically make sure that I have better stamina. Number 2, it helped to lose weight. But also, that, health, something that so many of us take for granted. I think we've all learned through the pandemic to really put that at the forefront, not just in terms of rhetoric, but actually doing it, and to be grateful for clean air, so yes, that's for the pandemic. And obviously having 3 children, having young children in this world, it's so important that we make the world a better place for the next generation.
All right, thank you very much for sharing that. I think many people would either gain weight or lose weight throughout the pandemic. So interesting to know that you're on the other side. All right, perhaps
on the other spectrum, yes.
Yes. All right, Lita, may you go next? Okay, so it's either Lita or Lukman. So perhaps Lita, you'd like to go next?
Okay, thank you, Carmen. Good evening, everyone. Hi, all the panelists, Kak Saras, and then Lukman, and also thank you for the RSF for organize these events, and of course Y20. And yeah, maybe everyone, I just want to introduce. My name is Tanitya Nulita, and you can call me Lita. It's kind of the good question that you're asking about what I did during the pandemic. Before it, I want to introduce myself. So yeah, I'm more active for the environmental things since 2011 when I was students, when I was in bachelor's. My background is bachelor's is fisheries and marine sciences. And right now I'm studying my master's on public policy and in one of the university, School of Government Public Policy. And beside that also, I work in the one of the company in the US about the plastic recycling. And I made my own social business, namely Waste Solution Hub. Is about we want to elevate waste speakers and then increase their livelihood, and especially in our social business in South Tangerang, and beside that also in East Nusa Tenggara. And yeah, during 2 years pandemic, actually I changed a lot because during 2 years, I spent my time, mostly in Indonesia. I did solo traveling from Aceh to Papua, and it's just really interesting because it's different. Like mostly people stay at home. For me, it's not. So I'm stay and knock the door every villages, and then knock the door every areas, regions, especially how to know about the environmental issues there. And I saw many interesting that I saw it before, like especially for underwater things, because we should careful as Indonesians, and also we should careful as Southeast Asian countries. We are live in coral triangles, and mostly the biodiversity is really high. And of course, when I did many diving spots in Indonesia, mostly sad, mostly happy. I'm happy because in the east part of Indonesia is still beautiful, but sometimes in the some areas, mostly I got some of aspect and impact of coral bleaching because of climate change. And besides that, also the people, what they did, especially for the bombing, and then also some of the things, because they don't know about the how to preserve the environments. For me, during 2 years, it's very interesting. I learned a lot. I really love my countries, because if not pandemic, maybe I will going outside to another countries. But now I'm more grateful. I know how the problem is in the grassroots level, and this is also potential, because right now it's not pandemic anymore. So maybe in the future, especially for youth, we can help the people, especially for the local people, how we deliver the message of Y20 to the society, especially for the grassroots level. Yeah, that's really interesting and changed me everything, especially for the underwater. Yeah, this my story, Carmen and everyone.
Yes, thank you very much, Lita, to share for sharing about your love for the underwater world and for the environment and the many hats that you also wear. Next up would be my fellow Malaysian, Lukman. Would you like to take the floor?
Yeah, hello everyone. Good day. Salam sejahtera. My name is Lukman Hakim. I'm currently the president for Club Boleh Perhatian Malaysia. In English, it directly translate as Malaysian Youth Concern Club. So actually, we just began and founded this establishment since last year, when there is actually a few phase of lockdown in Malaysia. So I think it's around June last year when our country had a lockdown for the third time, and then there is like a white flag movement in Malaysia, where you can see that there are so many people that maybe they didn't have money to buy food, or even they don't know how to get food itself. So they start raise the white flag outside their house. So I'm staying in Ampang. Ampang is part of Kuala Lumpur, the city of Malaysia. So we start, contact with like a small circle of friends, and then we start collecting money, and then we start distributing food basket in the middle of KL. And then in Ampang, there is actually quite a few spots that occupied by the undocumented person. So the thing with undocumented person, in the time as in a lockdown, there is issue of they cannot receive aids even from the government, from the Malaysian government, or from the embassies or whatnot, because everything is in lockdown. So that is the very moment that we founded this establishment, and then people start to ask, "Oh, Lokman, how can we join you guys? How can we help? Maybe if not money, we can give things, give food items, something like that." And then starting from there, we gain a lot of traction, mostly in the urban youth, that they might have money, you can still work from home, but at some point you don't know how you can help your fellow Malaysian, or even fellow human, even they are not Malaysian, as in the case of the undocumented person. And then starting from I think August last year, the situation in Malaysia a bit in terms of numbers of COVID cases a bit slow down, lower than before. Then we managed to encourage people. We launched a campaign called Misi Malaysia Gembira, Malaysian Happy Mission in English. So at that time, we saw that there are actually increased numbers of mental health issue, where one of the easiest things to cater this issue is by promoting the exercise, ask people to go outside from their house. So hi baby. So yeah, that's what we've been doing with Misi Malaysia Gembira last year. And then this year, actually, not this year, December last year, we start with We Believe Together is a climate change campaign throughout Malaysia, where we cater a lots of other issues that related with SDGs and ESG, including malnutrition. You know, when we plant fruit tree in the East Malaysia, Sabah, so that the fruit from the tree can be eaten by the students, the poor student in Sabah, and then we start. This year also we have mangrove documentary, and we see the connection between the mangrove ecosystem and how it can actually help the community when tsunami 2004 happened. And then for most of the time we engage with the community. We do a lot of grassroots intervention, and I think that's how we can grow. And Alhamdulillah, last 5th of September, we officially established as a Malaysian youth club. Yep, I think that's all. As introduction.
Thank you very much, Lukman, for sharing. It's very heartening to hear all of the initiatives that you and your friends and the community have started throughout the pandemic. Yes, so this would bring me to the next question. As we know, today's topic is on sustainable and livable planet. So this is actually part of what Y20 is about, and it's one of the 4 charters of Y20 Communique. So based on this point, I would like to open this question to any of you. And the question is regarding sustainability and how do you see it being part of what you do? Or in simple words, what would be your golden circle, and why did you start what you are doing in your communities? So yeah, feel free to take the question if anyone would like to go first.
Yes, I can answer the question first. So I've been asked quite many times on how to make sure that, in the case of when you plant a tree in East Malaysia, I stay in KL, so it's like 3 hours by flight. It's quite far. So how to making sure that first the tree that we plant is there, and will be there for the next 5 years, 10 years. So what we do actually with Belay Prihatin, we engage a lot with the local community. In Malaysia, they have like, we call it community rukun tetangga. It's actually, in English, it might be like, people's, I don't know how to translate. It's like
a community action group.
Yes, exactly. So we connect with them, and we do the activity in the kindergarten. We have we call it Unity Kindergarten, which is governed by our government, but they have the community as part of the working group that take care of the kindergarten and whatnot. So that's how we make sure that the fruit tree that we plant is taken care of. And then, in fact, I think in Malaysia there are growing numbers in terms of planting mangrove tree. So the thing with mangrove tree is actually a tree that grow at the seashore, where most of the people stay in the city, right? So who's actually taking care of the tree? If when after the event, we all going back to our home. So what we do is actually we engage with the local fisherman community, where they can actually see the growth, and then sending a report. We also, for some cases, we pay allowance for the fisherman community, so at least is a to ignite the interest, so that they can take care of the tree. That's number one. You always have to engage with the local community and never work in silo. As youth, I think we have many ideas, we have many energy, we want to do everything, but we have to make sure that whatever we do, this is my second point, is what the community needs. Sometimes in Malaysia we call it short sendiri. You do what you want, not what the community needs. So it's actually when you do what you want, instead of you do what the community needs, there is a gap in terms of the action plan. So when that activity or program happen, is actually I think for me it's hard to sustain the impact, the interest of the community, because they have nothing. They are not part of the whatever you want to do. So I think when being asked such a question, this is very important to make sure that our vision, both the expectation of the organizer, the youth organization, and the community is aligned, so that everyone is happy. Yep.
That's a good point. To always start with engagement with the community and understanding what exactly the community actually wants or needs. Yeah. How about you, Lida? Any opinion?
Yeah. Thank you, Carmen. This very good questions. Yeah. When we talk about youth and how our spirit to deliver to community, because I'm still remember when I was students there, and right now still working on the environmental issue, and we trying to protect the planet. So it start for why questions. Why we are here now? Why all the participants join these youth discussions? So this is the first thing that we should to know. So we should ask ourselves why we join these events, why we join. Maybe some of the people here also Y20 delegates, why the people is curious about how we protect the planet. And then after that, because actually we have a change, right? If I compare with the some of project that we held in East Nusa Tenggara, mostly they not really understand like how the carbon emissions, how the impact for the environments, how the youth can contribute for the planets. Mostly they are still struggling with the kind of digital things. Mostly they are still struggling with communications. But now we are here now, so it means that it's calling for us. We already know everything about the problems, especially for environmental things, and then for the planet, and then also some of people here join Y20, know the report about the carbon and then waste management, and then about the emissions, and then everything about the planet. The thing is how we deliver to community. I'm still remember because our project mostly for the community and socials. We always asking about the empathy map. What is empathy map? So empathy map is about, this is not our ideas, but how we deliver our ideas with their needs. This is the important things, because maybe we know about how we preserve the nature, how we preserve the planet, but actually they're still questioning like how should we do, and is there any help or is there any support from us as a youth. So we are now in the middle, right? We know the technology, we know the knowledge, and how we deliver and how we support them to know each other, and how they can help, especially for the local wisdom. This is the important things, because I still remember some of the areas in all Indonesian. Yeah, I still remember like just yesterday we celebrate Maulid, and some of the areas in Sulawesi they have some events, especially that is for so the boat is going to this oceans. This part of the tradition, but another tradition, they also want to protect the nature, and some of the areas like Sasi in Maluku, and some of the area they're trying to protect the nature, but couple months they're not allowed to catch the fishes. So yeah, how we deliver and how we also understand about their locals, because maybe our ideas like this, but their idea like this, if we know and if we dig deeper what they need, and if we dig deeper like what we want, it should be matched. So this I learned more than 10 years like how to manage with community, and mostly because we are in Southeast Asian countries, we are mostly some of the participants also Indonesia. Some of them also have different gap between digital literacy, environmental literacy, climate literacy, waste management literacy. So how we help each other. So important thing is about communication, and then trying to help with the basic way, because West Hub, one of the program is in Labuan Bajo. So we partnership with one of the university in Labuan Bajo Polytechnic. So we deliver the knowledge about the climate change with the very basic way. Because if we talk about the carbon emission to reduce some of the degree of the Celsius, they not understand. But how we make the social, I mean, how we make with the small sentence, but they understand it. And after we deliver with the general word, they, oh, this happening. Oh, this coral bleaching. Oh, this is water pollution. Oh, this is flood. Because what? This part of the climate change, and how we reduce the carbon emissions, how we reduce the degrees of Celsius. The thing is, they should protect the natures. So yeah, we should more listen and listen. So not only our ideas, but also we should also listen what they did before.
Great points. So from what I gather, it's on empathy mapping and bringing the knowledge and technicality of climate solutions to their level for their understanding. Yeah, those are really good points. And for Saras, any input from you? What is your big why?
Are we asking the why, or are we asking what are we doing now?
Why are we doing what we are doing now?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the why is simple enough. When I realized, I think it was 2010, 2011. Basically, I attended a climate reality leaders training, and hearing directly from Al Gore, right? And then knowing exactly what is going on and how it's affecting us. And basically, realizing that everything that we're fighting for, whether it's, in any social issues, especially with myself with the anti-human trafficking, it would be semi-useless if there's no future for the next generation. I mean, it's as simple as that. It's like, well, what are we fighting for if all of this will basically be for naught if we won't have a planet to live on? And I think that's what's really that's what I think is a big issue, is that a lot of environmentalists, when we're talking about sustainability, they tend to just focus on planet. They tend to just focus on, oh, this is what we need to do to save the environment. But they don't say, but we save the environment, it's actually for human race. So that's why at the Y20, it's important when we say sustainable and livable planet, because at the end of the day, it's about the human race, actually, right? So we're doing all of this not for planet Earth, because planet Earth can just live without us, but we cannot live without planet Earth. So it's having the focus return to how it's supposed to be. And let me just mention a little bit about, us in the Y20 with the limited time that we have. With Y20, the sustainable and livable planet, or sustainability, is a legacy issue that's been talked in previous years. I myself was a head delegate for Indonesian delegation at the Y20 2020 at Saudi Arabia. And at that time, it was about global citizenship. And global citizenship includes multiculturalism and sustainability. And this year, us as the Y20 presidency in Indonesia, we've decided that, okay, we need to have a sustainability as its own issue. And so sustainable and livable planet as one of our 4 priority areas. And it's clear that when we did our white paper, which everybody can access on our website, when we did the white paper and we surveyed 5,700 youths from G20 countries, that this is one of the biggest issues at the forefront of the youths, and what affects youths and our future, and what we think is basically an issue that is a priority. And I think it's very important, specifically for Indonesia, because the youth, Gen Z and millennials, we're the 53%. We're the majority of this country right now. We make up of 53% of our demography in Indonesia. So that means that, hey, if you're saying we're the future, then shouldn't we have a say in what kind of future we are to inherit? This is what I mentioned in the closing ceremony. And so I think it's and I think what a lot of the youths need to realize, that in the Y20 is not like the MUN. This is not a simulation. The delegates are official representatives of their country, of their own country and of their youths. And what we put in our communique, this is what will be handed over to the presidency. And what we did, we handed it over at the end, at the closing ceremony at the summit, which took place on the 17th to the 24th of July. And these are points that represent the youths of the G20 countries. And let's not forget the G20, that's 19 countries plus the European Union. And we represent 85% of the world economy. 85% of the world economy, that's within the G20. And it's important that when the leaders discuss what their communique will be at the Leader Summit, that they take into consideration what the 1.8 billion youths around the world are saying. And this is again, in the communique, everybody can access it. The communique is there to access it and our website. So, you'll be able to see the points that are put in there. It represents not just Indonesia, not just ASEAN, but it should represent youths from around the world.
Thank you so much for sharing about what the communique is about and why you started what you're doing right now. Very inspiring, and same goes to all three of you. Because we actually started the session 10 minutes late, so we will also end it slightly beyond 9:10. I will make sure that we will not go over time, because I know that bedtime actually Malaysia is 1 hour ahead of Indonesia. We have questions coming in the Q&A box. I'll address those very shortly. So back to the list of questions that we have here. The next one is on challenges. What are some of the challenges that you face, key challenges that you face as a youth activist, as someone who runs an NGO, CSO, as a public figure, and as a person who is living in your own community, in terms of sustainable development, and perhaps also some solutions that you have come up yourself, or perhaps you've discovered throughout your journey of in what you do?
If I may, just really quickly, I think one of the biggest challenges is the hypocrisy. I'll just lay it out there. It's one of my pet peeves. I think a lot of youths say that they are concerned about the environment, that they want to see the world as a better place. I'm not even going to talk about the older generation. I'll just address the youths. All of us here as youths, I think there is a little bit of hypocrisy in our environment. So when we're talking about, what we want to, what we're fighting for, etc., not everybody, they say in surveys that, oh, this is, what's really important. But then when we ask them to, okay, let's be accountable, let's be transparent, let's do what needs to be done. Even just talking about waste management, which is something that's very close to my heart here in Indonesia, it's very difficult. To have theories, to have policies be put into implementation is something that I think is a huge challenge in our country. And I know, Lita is basically working in areas that is very difficult because of the culture, because of practices that they have there, that the youths, when we're talking, it doesn't connect, policies on a global level, policies on a national level, sometimes they're not, it doesn't trickle down to the local level. And when we have internationally, we discuss, we negotiate, and we put forth the best policies there could be. But it does, if there is no political will behind it, then forget it, bye-bye. Because then you're talking about the central government, then you're talking about the provincial level government, then you're talking about the regency level government. If they don't have, I'll just share one thing. I ran for deputy mayor of a city outside of Jakarta, and during one of the debates, I talked about recycling. I talked about basically dealing with the plastic waste issue in South Tangerang, and the waste management is absolutely astounding. The landfill is just it is built right next to a river, and a couple of years ago it actually fell into the river. So talk about ocean bound ocean-bound waste. I mean, that's actually from the landfill. You know, it was the worst that you can imagine. But during the debate, I faced basically the deputy mayor that was running against me laughed when I talked about turning plastic waste into building materials or into building roads, which is already being done in a few countries. We actually have some of those in Indonesia, and yet that person laughed. And by the way, he got elected. So, so we have a huge issue. It's not just about political will. It's also about having leaders who don't even understand about this issue. So that's the challenge. But in terms of solution, I will say it like this: wherever you are around the world, if you're a youth and you want to see changes in the world, don't be allergic, like I am, to politics. I basically stepped out of my comfort zone. I ran for office and I became a member of parliament in 2014 to 2019. Why? Because if you're an activist, then I'm sorry to say, it's like being a dog barking from the outside. You want to create changes, you better step out of the comfort zone and be part of the systems where you can actually make changes by being a policymaker.
Okay, golden nuggets coming from Kasaras. Thank you so much for sharing. And I couldn't agree more. The politician that you mentioned, it's not just in Indonesia. I'm pretty sure in my country and in many parts of the world, there are people like that who are still unaware or oblivious. Or, well, the main point is that, like what you shared earlier, if we want to be making changes, we cannot be allergic to politics. We need to take social action. Yeah. All
Well,
right.
you can be allergic to it, but like deal with it. We need youths, we need solutions, and that means being part of the system.
Yes.
But just to add to what Saras said just now, I think I might have a disagreement on that, because as youth, we can not only joining the politics, because at the end of the day, what I see in Malaysia and most in part of the most of the nation, we can see that somehow we are being used to political play and whatnot. But as the youth or as a people, we can make sure that our voice are being heard by vote. In Malaysia, we just now, our Prime Minister has announced that bakal ada pemilu election coming soon. So I think one of the most important things to highlight in this coming months or days is that Malaysian youth has to make sure that we elect a party that are concerned about change, about sustainability, about climate change and whatnot. Because at the end of the day, if everyone is want to be a leader, want to be, I don't know, in Malaysia we call it MPs, ahli parlimen. In Indonesia, jika semua orang mau jadi presiden, I think it's going to be problematic for the nation, for the country. So let us be activists. We can enlighten community. Kak Saras, you can stay as politician. Make sure that our voice are being heard in terms of Indonesian context. Climate change are being taken care of. But let us do our part. And I think tonight we share a strong and same concern regarding climate change. And I think most of us are politically literate, but might not political inclined, as a politician. I don't know. Yeah. But I believe we can agree to disagree. That's my 2 cents.
Yes, indeed. And everyone plays a different role in life, whether it's through activism, through the political arena. Yeah. And on this point, actually, we have actually addressed quite a few questions that was raised in the Q&A box, which is on policy making and how you can actually make a difference being a young person. So yes, Lita, I noticed that you wanted to say something earlier. Would you like to continue?
Yeah, yes, good point from Kak Saras and also Lukman. Yeah, I still remember because now I still study about public policy, and I have some of the colleagues, and some of them are asking because they will join the politics, ask me how to make social project and how to make that project sustainability. Interesting. So you join this politics because you want to something only for you, but the thing is, it's not about the politics, but how we deliver what they want into the policymaker, right? And I'm really like that, Kak Sarah, before. If you want to enter and if you want to contribute and what the community want, the important thing is about we should also know about the whole process. So it's not about we make a shortcut, because mostly youth, they want to shortcut, but they don't know how to make it. It's just enjoy the process, right? And I really agree what Lukman said. It's not only the party about concern with sustainability things, but also the leader, because even the party is care about the environment or they care about the sustainability, but the leader is not care about that. So they are like instant sustainability, it will be worse. So yeah, the good things that we should do as a youth, because you're asking about the challenge, and the good thing that we can do, especially for the consistency and willingness, because when we talk about consistency, it's not only 1-2 years. So if you want to check and if you want to know about the good leader, you should check about their consistency, how many years and how many people that got impacted from them, and how their willingness, even they start willing to raise awareness to education, or maybe they start working for the small communities. Okay, the thing is about the willingness to change, and then start for the small, because I'm prefer do small things, then we make a big thing, but it's the impact is we cannot measure. So for me, yeah, it's not only talking about the because this environmental right now is the climate change, and it's very sexy, right? The sexy issue. Everyone want to contribute net zero and then climate change, and they try to speak up, but actually they don't know what happened inside. So yeah, the consistency and willingness that we should put as a youth, yeah. Because now I believe most of you is still under 30, and even some of the areas is under 35, is okay. But the interesting thing is about when we talk about sustainability, it's also consistency. So not only talking about 1-2 years, but even after we died, and then after we make new generation, of course, we should also talking about the sustainability and also how to preserve the planet and the nature. Yes, for my thought.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. And with that, you've also answered another question that was raised here by Rizky Akbar and another anonymous attendee on how do we actually measure impact in the sustainability arena, and how do we ensure that it's actually something that is sustainable and that can be carried on for the next generation. So I'll segue into the Q&A that we have here. So I'll start with this question by Naufal Madani. What is the role of millennial generation, Gen Z, in facing digital democracy? So I think this is slightly, well, it's actually all interrelated. So anyone would like to take this question? The question is on digital democracy.
Probably that's up my sphere. So so I wrote in the chat box a little bit of a correction. So I mean, I'm not saying by going into politics it means that everybody, or everybody needs to be running for something, but going into politics means actually being a decision maker, because again, the system of politics is different in every country. Here in Indonesia, we have what's called musyawarah mufakat. It's not a voting system. It's actually a reaching a consensus system. And when it comes to that, it means it's very difficult. If for example, me in the national parliament or the House of Representatives, it's a total of 575. Now imagine if it's only one person, me, who have a stance about climate issue. That means I'm one trying to make a difference and trying to influence 574 people. And that's what I mean by, it will be very slow in the decision-making process if there's not enough of us driving that change. And that's why I would like to push because there is, we say, oh, youth, we're decision makers, and yet we're not. There's only, like in Indonesia right now, there's only 10% youths in the parliament. And that's saying something, whereas we're the 53% of the democracy, of the demographic, in Indonesia. So that's one point. And I think in terms of the millennial generation, millennials, again, we have millennials and then we have Gen Z. Millennials are 1981 to 1996. Gen Z is from 1997 to 2012. So first, know who you are. You can't say that everybody's a millennial generation. That's Gen Y is the millennial generation. And when we're talking about digital democracy, I think it's about, ensuring that there is better educational system, and that there is, like basically a self-filter, and that means it's critical thinking. And I always say this in all the, in all the talks, when we're talking about decision making, we're talking about, basically elections, or we're talking about hoax, how there's, lots of false information in a digital world where it's so easy to find information, but not all the information are correct. So when we're facing digital democracy, I think we need to look at our education system, because here in Indonesia, we have the issue where the education system for years, it was all about memorizing. It wasn't about critical thinking. And I think now we're facing the consequences of it, where we have so many people. Our literacy rate is very low. It's one of the biggest issues we have. Why, if we're talking about climate issues, not everybody understands it, because not everybody likes to read. And number two, it's about, when we're talking about critical thinking, it means knowing what is right and what's correct, what is backed by data, having, we don't necessarily have a parliament or policy making institution that's data driven. We have very weak data. And I think that's also another thing that, us being the supposedly the most informed generation, we should be the driving force for data-based, evidence-based decision making. And when it comes to digital democracy, I think critical thinking is a huge part of that.
All right, thank you for that answer. So that was to address digital democracy. And we also have a question here, which I think would be great for the Y20 team to address. And it's basically regarding how it seems that, because this is an anonymous person, that G20 is very unreachable to people at the grassroots level. And how is it different with Y20? How can we take part in joining the movement and creating a sustainable and livable planet? So basically, how can they take action as a person? And I believe this question is also for the other two panelists, because both of you also run your own social action, your own environmental work. Perhaps you can also share, like, how can the public be part of that?
I guess I'll start first because it's to do with G20 and Y20. Sorry. First, we need to explain that, G20, the G20 itself is, that's the leadership level. So within the G20, there's the Sherpa track and the finance track. G20 was basically made because of the recession in 1998. It's to ensure that we don't go into recession again. That's why it represents 85% of the world economy, because it was actually to ensure that there's no more economic recession that affects on a global scale. Obviously now with everything that's going on, pandemic, and then what's going on in Europe. Okay, so most likely, which is why G20 is so instrumental in ensuring diplomacy is taking place, and that everybody who's who are basically talking to each other. So that's the G20, and so obviously it doesn't necessarily mean it's accessible by the people. From the very beginning, it's not supposed to. It's the reason why then, since 2010, for example, when it comes to the Y20 started in 2010 in Canada with the G20 Youth Forum, and then it was held every year. And in that sense, it cannot be just open to everyone because it was very limited. It was meant to be for delegates who were representatives of the youths. So, for example, in Indonesia, we have a very, very good system. The Indonesian youth diplomacy consists of all the previous alumni as in the previous delegates, and we have a selection process every year. This year, we had about 530 applicants and only 4. So it's actually harder than getting to Harvard. Only 4 were picked out of 530 applicants. And so in terms of that, it is not supposed to be something that is open to everyone. It's just the system itself. However, we made it different this year. Previous years, we don't have pre-summits. This year we did. And we included 100 youths in each town because we have 4 priority areas. So we had 4 pre-summits. And we ensured that this year there were observers from ASEAN, which never happened before. So we have 20 observers from countries, and even we have inclusion as part of our priority area. It was diversity and inclusivity. So 3 from 3 groups, refugees, indigenous peoples and local communities, and persons with disabilities. There were representatives of each of those communities as observers in the Y20. And that's also very new. That was our initiative. And so when it comes, and we have our post-summit as well. Again, the pre-summit, we had it open to 100 youths in each town, in each section of Indonesia. So East, Central, and West Indonesia, and then also the future capital city, Kalimantan area. So we actually opened it up so the discussion can include the local youths. Post-summit is happening in Solo at the end of this month, and we actually have about 300 applicants signing up for what we call Suara Pemuda. So it's the youth voice, where there will be a collaboration pitch fest being listened to by the executives. There will be ministers, regents or mayors and governors who will attend and basically pick on the best collaboration projects being pitched by the youths. So we are making this very different from the Y20 and G20 in previous years, making it accessible to the youths. It's just also the youth's responsibility to kind of keep track of what's going on. And you can keep track with everything through our social media as well. So feel free to see what's going on there. Thank you. Sorry, a lot to answer.
Thank you. And your turn, Ms. Dita.
Okay, I've just add a little bit. So I'm really like about Y20 date before, because even I'm not in charge in Y20, but mostly my friends and my networks joined Y20. So I'm really like about the transparency, because the things that we should do as a youth, you know, like we are now living in the digital things. The things that we should do is the ability for catch the opportunity. The second one is curiosity. And then the third one is agility. If we're not curious about Y20, G20, we not check the Y20 website, right? If we not catch the opportunity, we not submit Y20 pre-summit or anything. So the things that we should do as a youth, we are now living the Google things. We now live in the digital era. It's very nonsense, and it's really is nothing happen if we not check in the internet. So the good things, even you don't have any organization yet, or even in your area you don't have any sustainability organization or community, just check in the Googles or in Y20 website. You can see anything, even the events, even the result of the discussions, even you cannot join the participants there. So this is what I did when I was first students. So actually when I was first semester, I always active with anything, curiosity with everything. So I'm searching everything for my curiosity. So after I got it, and then the all access that I want get it. Yeah, actually I got it. So the thing is about, yeah, we are as a youth, millennial, Gen Z, Gen Y, and everything, curiosity, agility. Because if we just stuck with our skill, or if we just, okay, we have this, is nothing, because with digital era, everything will be changed every day. So if we're not agile, it means that we cannot adapt with the technology. So yeah, what I did before, catch the opportunity, and then agility, and also curiosity, and everything at the website of Y20. So even you are not joined in that discussions, you can implement in your community because you already checked in Y20 website. So if you say that I don't know what Y20 and what the G20 is really is not make sense, because everything is there. So the things after you get the information, implement in your community everything is, and then implement in your small scale village or cities and everything, and then done. So you help Y20, and then you represent your organizations. So yeah, easy.
All right, there you go. Best testimony from a youth herself who is very involved. Thank you for sharing that. Any other points from Lukman? If not, we'll dive into the next question. Well, I see more questions coming in actually. So this one is regarding being a politician as a Gen Z, and I think Saras has addressed that question. I'll just briefly go through it. Yes, if you have the access and if the ability, go for it. We need more politicians who are in it to serve and be change makers, not just politicians to be for politicians' sake. That's a good question, and from someone who actually walked the talk. All right, I think we'll be moving towards the end of the session, because I think the other questions are all similar. So for the next 3 minutes, 1 minute for each of you, you can actually provide your closing statement, which is basically, if you have missed out the whole session earlier, what would be the one thing that you would like our audience to remember? So yes, your takeaway. Okay, I'll count down. 3, 2, 1, and go. Maybe Saras first?
No, let Lukman go first, because he hasn't been talking like we've been.
Okay, all right.
No worries.
Putting you in the
Thank you.
spot, here you go.
Yeah, so I think at the end of the day, one thing that we have to remember is when you talk about sustainability and livable planet, you have to make sure that whatever you do, whether you are a politician, you are activist, you youth, elderly, or whatever your background, religious, or even a political ideology, you have to make sure that everyone is involved in whatever you do. You don't work in silo. As youth, I think, like Rania said just now, we really like to take shortcut. When we do something, we really like to see the result as soon as possible. So that cannot happen. That cannot happen unless you work in silo. So when you talk about planting 100,000 of trees, you cannot do it alone. But you can start the initiative by yourself. But at the end of the day, you need the community, you need the government, all the land that you need to plant the tree. Of course, we need the politician to endorse, we need the corporate to give fund and whatnot. So yeah, don't work in silo, work with your community, work together. And last but not least, we have to make sure that all parties involved in whatever we do. Thank you.
Yes. I just like to add an analogy to that. It's like the Avengers, right? Like how we started the session earlier. You can't just have Captain America or Iron Man or the millennial Spider-Man. You need everyone on board. So thank you for sharing that. And Lita, you want to go next?
Okay. So for my side, it's about intentions, because the intention is very important to do everything, right? If we are intention for the good environments, especially we want to protect the planet. Because if we don't have intentions, even we do something great for the environment, but the intention because we want to show up or anything is different. So the good intentions to protect the environment is really important. And then the second one, that this is always I give to people who want to care about the environment. It's okay we start with small scale, and it's okay we work with a small scope. So everything that we can do, just do for the environment. We don't need to be, oh, I should be politician first and then I protect the nature. No, if you just chill students, or if you are right now have your own business, just do it. At least if you have intention to protect the nature, everything will be clear enough. Yeah, that's my point.
Very succinct. So having the right intentions and also starting small. Perfect. And to Kak Saras. And hi, little one.
Sorry, where's mom? Oh, this is junction, right? Basically, being an artist and a mom at the same time. But last thing, I think they already mentioned exactly, don't be too bogged down. If I can just add, don't be too bogged down with questions of the how and just make any difference. So if we start asking those questions, it's never going to end paralyzed. Just start with what you have, because then when you get started and when you are on the right intention, what Lita said, I believe that you will meet with similar people, because that's on the right frequency. Then people who are like-minded will be attracted to other like-minded people. I truly believe that. And then to basically add on to what Lukman said, here in Indonesia, we have what's called the pentahelix. It's no longer just public-private partnership. It's the government, it's the CSOs, it's the business, it's the academics. It's all of that need to work together. The NGOs, the people, all five need to work together to ensure that we actually make a difference. We cannot do this alone. And that means there's a key word there, collaboration. Don't look at others as a rival, but see how you can actually work with them, because there's not enough of us. There's a lot of work to be done. And so I think, it's not about reinventing the wheel, but it's about finding the right champions, and being that champion wherever you are, and then creating that change in your own community. Little by little, then we can all see the difference by all of us working wherever we are to make a difference in our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you to all three of you for the golden nuggets, the really genuine sharing of your journey thus far in life. With that, we will wrap up this session. Before we adjourn, this is a plug also for Y20 and for RSF. As our panelists has shared earlier, it's basically a collaboration between these two parties. So you can follow their pages, as in, actually I have a script to follow to say you need to do this, all right? If you have attended this session, we hope that you can also continue to follow us on all of our socials on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. I bet you didn't know that there's a LinkedIn account for RSF too. This is actually one of the first events that we have for RSF. And as Rennie has mentioned earlier, it is an extension from ILA, ASEAN Youth Leaders Association, but now it's expanded beyond ASEAN, but it's also a global platform to connect youths. So for those who raise the questions on how you can actually volunteer and be part of these networks, just go on the platforms, check out, understand more, and see how you can actually be part of this community. And as for this series, this is the first of 4 conversations that we will have based on the communique of Y20. So follow along the pages to see what are the next dates where we will have the next sessions. And also on at the end of this whole series, which is the 5th session, there will also be an open discussion involving all youths. So it's an online forum to be connected to like-minded young people. So stay tuned for all of that. And before we close, we would also take a group photo with our distinguished guests. So maybe the admin can give us the cue, and we can have maybe 10 seconds to look nice, look at your own reflection if you're looking good. Shall I do the countdown, or how do we do this? Or is it an Indonesian way to take a Zoom screenshot?
Yeah, we will do a screenshot. We can do the countdown.
Okay, Rennie is here. All right.
Right.
So on the count of 3, 3, 2, 1, smile.
Smile. Okay, very well.
You need one more?
All good.
Okay, a fun
Okay,
pose,
one more.
Rennie. 3, 2, 1. All right, very fun. All the thumbs and the hearts and all. Oh wait, Jawad missed the train. We need one with Jawad in it. Okay, just one more for the sake of Jawad. Okay, 3, 2,
Okay, one more.
1. All right, I can also see all the other participants smiling at the camera without turning on the videos. Anyway, thank you so much everyone for being with us this evening. So thank you to Kak Sarwas, Kak Lita, and Abang. In Malaysia, we say Abang, we don't say Kak from here. Abang Lukman. And of course, to our organizers, Y20 and RSF. Thank you so much. And we will see you all at the next session. Good night.